Okay, let's try and do this even though it's loud as hell in here, and I'm so sorry for that. Welcome to the Ginger Cast. My name is Dakota Smith, and well, I am doing this in my laundry room with the green screen I kind of barely put up, so we're going to see how well this works all together and see if you guys can even hear me over what's going on in the background. What the hell, right? Anyways, so I wanted to talk today for this episode of the Ginger Cast about something that definitely might be affecting a lot of people, especially this time of year, or that it comes around once every 4 years, which is politics and depression. So this can be kind of a touchy subject for most people, and I do want to reiterate this point very clearly before anybody ever listens to this or watches the video, that I am not a behavioral health expert, nor am I a psychiatrist or a therapist. I'm simply just offering things that therapists that I've been to before or anyone of the behavioral health field has recommended. Just kind of my whole insight as far as dealing with all this craziness that we know of as politics and dealing with mental health. And with this being Mental Health Month altogether, it's kind of a great time to talk about this, because during a pandemic like this, it does get a bit crazy, and adding pandemic craziness on top of, oh my gosh, who am I going to vote for in this next election, can be a little bit crazy. And also I want to reiterate the point that I am not going to talk about my political views in this video, nor am I going to discuss who it is that I'm going to be voting for in the next presidential election. Mainly what I want to talk about today is just simply how to deal with it throughout all this craziness, and possibly dealing with family that are probably getting torn apart a little bit about this next election, or just simply politics altogether. What should be done next for a country? It can be kind of stressful, and for a lot of people that have anxiety and depression like myself, it can kind of feel to a point to where you don't feel like you're doing enough to help people. So this is why I wanted to discuss this today, to see if I could possibly offer some insight to you as far as what you can do going forward for your own mental health and mental well-being. So let's just start out with an easy one, okay? It's the biggest thing that happens all the time. You live with them every day of your life. It's your family. Now, your family can be a little bit taxing on your mental health, especially when we're talking about politics and what they believe in, what the family has always believed in, and then what you yourself, being your own person, believe in personally itself. It's okay to be your own person and have a difference of opinion than other people in the family. Now, I understand it can be a little bit weird, and sometimes with some of your family, they might take it personally. So for yourself, I strongly recommend this when I say this wholeheartedly, but do understand that, you can still love your family members and not agree with them about everything. So in this case with some of my family, I have my own political views. They have their own political views. We may argue it over a dinner table, but regardless of the fact, as long as it's not something crazy as hell, most of the time I can give them a hug afterwards. Now, I will say that at any time when I state what I believe that you should do in situations like this, you might find a different way to deal with this with you and your family. But one of the biggest things is that I understand that sometimes when it comes to stuff as far as political or beliefs, that what our government should be doing is a little bit different than yours. Just understand that, your family still loves you, and they will hear what you have to say. And even then, take that moment to kind of sit there and be like, hey, I just really don't want to talk about it. But regardless, that goes into my first point. Let me kind of explain some situations that I've always seen or heard from friends or family members, or pretty much colleagues at my own workplace that have to deal with a crazy family that does have crazy political views, or they get a little wacky during this time of election season. It can be taxing a lot on a lot of families, but one of the first and probably the most probable ones is just sitting around at a dinner table and the idea of politics gets brought up. I mean, it's the whole point of a dining table, right? It's supposed to bring the family together. You guys talk about your days, you express what's going on in your life, maybe possibly share some news that maybe you want your family members to hear to kind of help you through it. And 9 out of 10 times, depending on your family, or even in my family or colleagues or workplaces, politics does get brought up, which it really shouldn't in the workplace, and I'll explain best practices for that moving forward. But as far as your family and dealing with politics while sitting around at the dining table, there's a lot of ways to kind of ease your way out of it and just kind of tell your family, hey, really not comfortable about the way that we're talking about this, and it's just the idea of it is just too much for me. It's too taxing. So one of the first things, one of the biggest things is you've had a heated argument, right? Your family's going at it. It feels like everyone's getting ready to tear yourselves apart. The best thing to say and the most logical thing to do is, regardless if you finish your dinner plate or not, if they're yelling at you or people are yelling over each other, get up and leave the room. That is a very powerful statement in any case whatsoever when having a discussion. If you feel yourself getting so sad and depressed or just anxious about what it is that they're talking about politics-wise or beliefs-wise, what the government should be doing, get up and leave. And now, that might not be as easy for most people because they're worried about how their family retaliates. But the thing about it is most 9 out of 10 times, if you get up and leave, and even if you haven't finished your food on your plate or whatever you guys are doing at the dining table, whether it be like a board game, 9 out of 10 times when your family sees you get up and leave, they're going to ask the question, why are you leaving? And there's a way to get out of this as well. Just one, you can simply state the obvious of, I don't feel comfortable about this discussion, and if we're going to get this violent and angry with each other about it, then I just really don't want to take part of it anymore. And maybe going forward, we should probably just not even talk about politics around the dining room table. Or the second and most obvious option is if they still feel heated or everyone's still anxious and trying to get at each other's throats, just don't answer them. Walk out of the room. Maybe take your dinner plate with you and go ahead and start to clean it and go work on something else. Be at another part of the house. Now, they might be heated with you and might get angry with you about it, but the biggest thing about it is that they still love you in a way, if you have that type of family, but we won't get into that. But your family does still love you, especially if they have the time to listen to you talk about what it is that you believe in, or just what's going on politics-wise inside of your own head, or what your beliefs are for it. So don't feel bad if you have to get up and leave a room just because everything they're talking about has just gotten way too violent and angry, and you just kind of need a moment to cool off. And maybe that's good for the rest of the family too, because they might take your cue on that. Go to separate parts of the house, cool off for a bit, and then come back together and go, hey, you know what? That probably might be a good idea to not talk about politics at the dining room table, especially if we're going to get crazy like that. I've seen it work a lot of times, and I do offer that kind of advice for most people. The other thing too is that if you're at the dining table and getting up is not really an option just because, well, the way you're sitting, you can just simply sit there and just not take part of the conversation. Start up a new conversation about something else going on in your life that doesn't have any regards to politics itself. It's a great way to take the mind's focus off of it, and the rest of the family will kind of follow suit to it and realize what's going on in this situation. Hey, he's bringing up another topic. Yeah, maybe we should talk about that instead of whatever it is that we're discussing politics-wise. Or simply just don't talk. Finish your food. Sit there. And, if somebody wants to start a conversation with you, try to start a conversation in a different subject altogether. This works both ways. Start a conversation with someone on a different subject, or just simply be quiet. Wait till somebody talks to you and you just kind of go, hey, I feel comfortable about talking about that, but I do want to tell you about this cool thing that I heard about blah, 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 or a cool place that you saw on History Channel today, or something that you saw on TV, or that you read in a book today, or a hobby that you just started, especially seeing as we're all stuck inside in our houses and having to stay away far from people. But these are great ideas, and some some ways that you can possibly maneuver around the whole discussion with the family as far as politics go. Now, another way is, instead of just dealing with family, let's say you're at work, right? This is another great example of dealing with politics and your own depression and anxiety. Man, never fails 9 out of 10 times, right? When you sign up and you're a new hire, you always get that packet, right? The thick packet that explains everything that should be discussed at work at any time. Regardless, 9 out of 10 times, there's always going to be that one person that wants to talk about politics, right? Or you just run into that one person that just wants to bring it up, right? They just want to know your views. Yeah, well, I'm going to offer some things about that because I ran into that a lot when I used to work one of my first jobs back in Warner Robins. So this can be a bit of a tricky situation. So unlike the other situation where you can just walk away, it can kind of be tricky because then they might just follow you regardless if you walk away to go work on something. So the great thing is that in most companies, you do need to look up and see what the guidelines are for when certain discussions are just uncomfortable for you. So in the case of politics, in most workplaces, and I mean most, not all of them, they do hinder the idea that you should be discussing politics in the workplace. Because one, it can be distracting. Two, it can cause unknown anger towards people and cause things just not to be flowing perfectly between coworkers. And three, it's just stressful for everyone. You're at work. You just want to get work done. You want to help people if you're at those types of jobs. And then you just want to go home to your family or just sleep or chill out in front of the TV without having to discuss stuff like that. So if you do have a coworker that does want to discuss politics in any way whatsoever, let me provide some tips as far as how to deal with that in the best way. And I will add one more time, because I'll just continue to remind people throughout this video, I'm not a therapist, nor do I practice in behavioral health. I'm only offering stuff that therapists and behavioral health experts have helped me with as far as dealing with the stress and anxiety of politics, talking about politics, and dealing with stuff that's craziness about politics in the news. Hold on, need to look at my phone, make sure that's not important. I asked a friend to get me vitamin water. I love vitamin water. Anyways, continuing on. So, talking about with an employee as far as politics go. So, number one thing out of all the time is if you guys have a workspace, right? Never fails with any employee whatsoever. They always like to corner you in some way, start a conversation, and then they start to express their own political views as far as how they feel about what's going on in politics right now, right? This can be very detrimental for anyone that does have anxiety because it's almost like, holy crap, what am I going to do in this situation? I feel completely entrapped. Why are we talking about this? So the biggest thing and the biggest suggestion I can offer about this is, yeah, do walk away. If you feel like you're entrapped or you feel like this person just specifically just wants to get you talking on the subject of politics, this can be a good thing or a bad thing. It could be a good thing of they're just trying to get something off their chest, or it could be a bad thing where they're trying to get you to talk about politics so that way they can get you in trouble at work or get you on the bad side of other coworkers that you work with, which can make for a stressful situation. And unfortunately, there are people out there who do this. So if you do feel like you're being entrapped or you feel like you're being cornered, do try to walk away in the best way, or what I like to call the supervisor fishing. If you see a supervisor walking by and you feel like you just got entrapped by this fellow coworker talking about politics, simply just bring up some weird, different thing that you thought you had to talk to your supervisor about. Yeah, hold on. I just gotta talk to Kaylee real quick because I just remembered I had that thing that I was supposed to do for her. And, you know, it might sound like complete BS, and most times it can sound like you're just trying to get out of the conversation with them, and they might take offense to it. But regardless of the fact is that 9 out of 10 times, they're going to realize that, man, maybe I shouldn't have been talking about stuff like this with them. And if you do it multiple times, it may seem rude, but in reality, it should get a point across to them. Hey, as far as the topic of politics, I'm willing to talk about anything else at work, talking about the craziness that happened at checkout lane number 9, or, oh my gosh, we still didn't get the brand new iPads we were supposed to sell. Not sponsored. Please sponsor me. I don't know. Anyways, regardless, is when you feel entrapped or you feel like somebody's just specifically cornering you to talk to you about politics, or even trying to bring it up to get you either in trouble. I'm not saying that's what most people do, but some people do that at work. Or number 2, they just simply are trying to get stuff off their chest. Now, it does feel bad when you feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I could talk to this person, because it feels like they want to talk to someone. Well, then let me offer a bit of advice as far as what you should do in that situation. If you do legitimately want to help the person, right? They haven't quite made you so anxious and so just gaudy about the situation. Well, kind of offer this statement to them. Hey man, I hear you, and I understand what you feel is craziness about this certain political situation or this political topic. But I do want to let you know is I don't feel comfortable about talking about those situations. But if you just need someone to talk to about it, I can feel free to talk to me about it. But if it does feel comfortable, I do want to let you know that I might stop you and I might not want to talk about it anymore. Or in certain situations, you can even offer advice of, hey, in the handbook when I first started working here, they did mention that there is a therapy line for you to call if you ever do want to talk to someone about situations like this, or what's just driving you crazy and making you angry at work. Or Haley or Stephanie or whoever your supervisor or manager's name, that whatever workplace that you work at, women empowerment, you should go talk to them, because they do have an open door policy. Hey, I just wanted to talk to you today and I'm kind of frustrated about this. You should go talk to a manager about it. Somebody that could possibly even provide you with some assistance or some information and people that you could talk to about these certain subjects, in case you do need to get this off of your chest. Trust me, it may seem like you're off-putting to them and telling them to basically buzz off if it doesn't work for you, but in the long run, it will help them. You've offered already in that whole conversation, I'm willing to help you, but if it does get a little too crazy, I might have to go send you to a manager who may be able to talk to you about it and may even offer you some information as far as like therapy lines or who you should talk to. Now, between family and work, it seems like those are the 2 areas that I always hear about, and it's any behavioral health or therapist will ever talk to you about the 2 situations that you'll ever run into as far as discussing politics altogether. Now, I will suggest this in the best way, other outlets that you can go and talk to people about. Now, in case I'm not setting this right up on the green screen, I will put up the number for the suicide prevention hotline right here, or here right next to me, if that fits within frame. Either way, I'll just look like a dork holding up my fingers. And I will also offer up the governmental line for therapists, which I do know that does exist. If I can't find it, well then I'll just put a bunch of question marks right here when I do the edit for the video itself. And man, my leg is itchy. Whatever. Anyways, so going forward I do want to offer that between work and school, even if you do this with coworkers or you do this with your family, I understand not all families are great and not all coworkers are great or workplaces are great. And in those situations, I do want to say that you should definitely call those phone numbers. And on top of that, try to find other places where they do offer help to people. Now, if you're a religious person like myself, or anyone that is of the religious community, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, any religion whatsoever, and you do have a house of faith or someone of faith that you can talk to, I would definitely recommend it. do try to go to your house of faith or whatever, for whatever religion it is, and do talk to someone. Be like, hey, this whole political turmoil and situation, and my family wants to talk about this, and I deal with this coworker every day, and regardless of me saying this stuff, it still just doesn't work. Trust me, they're pretty much therapists in training, or they have to deal with this on a daily basis of people coming to talk to them at their house of faith and consoling them how they feel about it. Now, do keep in mind, they are going to try to discuss with you. Oh no. So, like I was discussing before, just had to switch cameras, so if this looks a little different, sorry. But anyways, so like I was discussing, if you have a house of faith or anything like that, in order to go discuss with someone, a religious leader, as far as what you're dealing with at home or work, as far as talking about political issues with your depression and anxiety, please do go check that. Other options I would suggest is that, if you possibly can, there are other free therapy settings or areas that you can go to. Even if you go to college right now, currently, they have tons and tons of on-call therapists that you can go talk to, or a counselor, especially if this is hindering your own education, or it feels like, wow, every time I think about trying to do schoolwork, I just don't want to do it because of just how crazy everything is just making me right now, especially dealing with politics. So if that does happen, there are counselors that are available that will discuss ways to be able to help you and assist you as far as providing therapy, or simply just tutoring or counseling during these kinds of seasons. They understand that whenever politics gets brought up or elections come around, it does always get a lot of people heated and in turmoil in their houses. So please feel free to also go and check out your own counseling at your school, whether it's at high school or you're at a college or university. Please go check that out, because it is free, it is paid for, you paid for it with your tuition, and they do provide that, as well as other health services that you definitely do need to go check out at any point, especially if you're dealing with anything that's causing your depression, anxiety, so much problems that you might possibly think about harming yourself. And in most times when discussing about anything with your family and a topic that just leaves you guys so heated, some people do tend to feel like it causes them to feel left out in their family and that they may want to hurt themselves. And in that case, please do go get help. It's understandable that, certain subjects and certain topics can make you uncomfortable, but don't ever feel like you're left out in your family just because you guys disagree on something. Now, if you do have a bad family, and that is kind of the case in most places, do still go talk to someone. Hey, we talk about this all the time, and I feel left out. It makes me feel like crap. And especially if you're not living with that family anymore, it might be best to kind of stop talking to them for a little bit and focus on school and explain that to them. I really want to focus on school right now, guys. It's cool. I'm just going to stay at campus for this holiday break or something like that. Now, true, your family may be hurt by this, and in some cases, they may not even care. And in most times, make sure to take that time to focus on yourself by making sure to count your blessings in any way, like just simply being happy that you're at school, that you are taking classes, that you're trying in some way to better yourself in any sort of way. The other thing you need to count on is that if you do have a close friend that you have at school, or anyone that you can call that will just listen to you regardless of what garbage comes out of your mouth, do give them a call. And in that case, if you just feel in a dangerous situation, like I call them, like a red hot situation, please feel free to call any of these numbers that I will have posted right here. Please call them. Seriously, they're
24/7. They deal with people on a daily basis, and these are trained therapists and behavioral health people that will help you in those situations if you do feel like causing harm to yourself or someone else. I hope that it never comes to that situation, but do please call and talk to someone, anyone. It doesn't matter how you do it, just talk to someone. So, moving on from talking about dealing with politics, with your depression, anxiety at school, or dealing with it at work, or simply just dealing with the family or friends in any situation. Remember what I said today is, 1, don't feel afraid to walk away. It's okay. You may hurt people's feelings, but in the long run, what will end up happening is people will realize you needed time to cool off, or they needed time to cool off, and the whole discussion about talking about politics and their own political beliefs has kind of caused some undue stress that really shouldn't have been caused in the first place. Number 2, if you feel like you are dealing with an unruly coworker that just wants to talk to you about anything political or just topics in association with it that you know will get yourself in trouble and them in trouble, and regardless they're still doing it, do what I said. Either A, do supervisor phishing, which is simply just going to a supervisor and simply stating to that coworker, hey, I needed to go talk to them about this so that way I can get out of this situation, and maybe even bring it up to the supervisor. Hey, he was kind of talking about this, and it's not that I don't want to get him in trouble or anything. It's just I didn't feel comfortable about discussing this, and if it's cool, maybe from now on, if I could just tag along with you if they ever bring this up again. And in most times out of 10, maybe they will talk with that coworker, or maybe in some cases they'll go, he's entitled to his own beliefs and it's cool, you can come talk to me at any time, or just simply get away saying that you have to work on something for me. It's perfectly fine. Or they may even give you something to go do so that way you can stay away from them for a little bit. The other big thing that I want to talk about with work too is like I said, the statement, hi, I will talk to you about things because it does feel like it's weighing on you and you do want to talk about this, but I do want to tell you though, if it does make me feel uncomfortable or it's something that I'm not completely believe in, I may ask you to stop. And in that case, if I do ask you to stop, I hope that you respect that. And also go talk to our supervisor if you're having anything that's just making you mad about the world and everything. They are there to talk, and they do have an open door policy. And I didn't mention this before, and I do want to mention this now, the HR telephone numbers at most places of work do offer free therapy, or they offer help in these situations of going, hey, if you need to talk to someone, if it's not about work, we can definitely talk to you about it and help you out with any situations. And if it is anything that's going on at work, or somebody talking about something political at work, and regardless if you did any of those things and they still didn't work, go and call your HR. Let them know what's going on. Talk to your supervisor probably first, and if they're not available or you're just not able to talk to them and it's just too much of a situation, go talk to your HR. Number 3, outside help. Now, like I said before, if you're not a religious person, definitely look into therapy, free essential therapy. I will try to post numbers about that below in the comments. If you're watching the YouTube video, if you're listening to this via Anchor, do Google therapy hotlines. There are several that are available that are offered by the government free of charge, and there is also the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which I will definitely have posted in the descriptions, and it will be in the video itself. As far as for the podcast version, I'll try to add in a little audio snippet of all those numbers so that way you have those available, or even possibly put it in the description itself so that way you do have those. Now, getting outside help. Like I mentioned before, it's okay to get outside help. And in most cases, if you're a religious person, much like myself, go to a house of faith. Go talk to someone that you do go to a house of faith for. Regardless if a Christian like myself, or Buddhist or Islam. There are houses of faith, and there are people of the faith that will talk to you about anything that is weighing on your mind, that is affecting you altogether mental health wise. It is a part of the decree. It is a part of the whole reason why they wanted to get into that line of work in the first place. They're there to help people and help them along their path so that way they can be a better person. So please do talk to them. It is free, it's available, use it, it's a tool. But the other thing is that regardless if you don't feel completely safe about going to a house of faith just because you're not a religious person, well then simply go talk to a therapist. If you do have health insurance or medical care whatsoever, which can be pretty slim pickings nowadays, do you try to see if they do offer it via your company's plan, or if there is someone in the company that is working through a degree through behavioral therapy. They might actually need people to talk to so that way they're able to get the hours they need for their behavioral therapy degree. Go talk to those people. Help them help you, right? It's perfect. It's a win-win situation. So do talk to those people. Now, finally, just as a wrap-up, even though that was a wrap-up to discuss what we talked about, but whatever. Wrap-up, remember, politics can be crazy, especially every time there's ever an election. And this year, especially with everything toiling around it and all the craziness, remember that you are still a person. Your choice is your choice. And also remember, too, that, regardless of the craziness and what you see on the news, or what you're seeing on TV or a screen, or just hearing from people, remember, you can turn that off. Turn the TV off, or change it to something funny. Watch a comedy, watch a movie, or just turn the TV off altogether. Go read a book, write a letter to a friend, call someone. Hey, this kind of upsetted me today. I really wanted to talk to someone about it. Or in most situations, when you're dealing with people, like I've said before, walk away from it. And if they're not willing to be helpful or understanding of the situation, well, then maybe they just weren't that great of a person to deal with in the first place, especially when it comes to politics and depression. So, just want to say, my name is Dakota Smith. Thank you for listening to GingerCast today, and I hope this somewhat helps. Anyways, see you guys next time.